The purpose of this video is to help students in the Business 1360 Software Apps for Business class who may be struggling with basic file management, file saving, renaming type skills. In this class, being able to know where you're saving your files, being able to open them again, are going to be important. Those skills, as it would be in any office, any professional job. You would be expected to save Excel spreadsheets, to save Word documents, to save PowerPoint files, to save anything, any document that you might be working on in a location where you can easily find it, where you can easily open it and modify it if necessary, or simply if you need it for a business situation, if your boss asks you for it, you need it for a client, you would obviously want to know where your business files are, and so it would be very important to understand that. And those skills are important in all classes, and especially, of course, in a class where you're working on documents. But you know, what class are you not working on documents in? If you're in an English class, you're working on a document. If you, are in a history class, you're going to be working on a file, and you have to know where those are, right? How can you turn it in? How can you modify it if you're not, if you have no knowledge of where you're keeping those, or if you're simply not organizing them? So that, hopefully this video will help a little bit with that. In this particular class, because this video is targeted for this class, I'm going to start with something that we do every class, which is we go into our PAWS system, and we're going to go under Assessment and then Assignments. Now this is, as you may know at this point in the semester, where we obtain our starting files, where we submit them after they are completed. And so we begin our classes with activities, your in-class activities that I call lead and follow in-class exercises. And so let's just take, how about this? Let's just take the case of our last week assignment, lead and follow in-class Word Case 4. And anyway, so let's look at this. Now here's the first thing that I want to look at in this. Oftentimes, as we have discussed in class, somewhat extensively, we've written this on the board, things like that, there's a name to the file, but then there is an extension. And recall that that extension simply tells the computer, the Windows operating system, what kind of file this is, so that it can use the default software to open it. For example, we've talked about docx files. Your book has talked about this. And this triggers the computer to understand that Microsoft Word is the default computer program. Now, I do understand there are some files in here with extensions that you may be unfamiliar with. For example, a .jpg, which is what this is, often referred to as a JPEG. This is an image file. And depending on the setup of your computer, it could open in Photoshop. It could open in simply the Windows photo editor program. This is, and this is just for your knowledge, ACC is starting to spell Access DB Database. That is something we have not gotten into, wouldn't get into until much, much later. But this is a database, and it simply tells Microsoft Windows, open this using the Microsoft Access Database program. But if we were to change this file extension, this would still be an image. This would still be a Word document. The computer just wouldn't know what to use by default. Right? When we double click the file, when we see it, we could always just open Word and go to it and open it. Now, that's just a little background, but one reason I point this out is because when you save these files to your computer, most computers, unless you have specifically taken actions to change this setting, will not display .jpg, .accdb, .doc, right? And that is because you simply don't need to see it. I like to see it. I always change my computer settings to display it. For this example, to make it look like your computer, I have made it where it'll go back to the default setting where it'll hide these. But just know that that's there, because when you're uploading these and downloading these from PAWS, you'll see them. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to start with this letter file. That's something we're familiar with, and I'm going to download it. Now, I am in the Chrome browser. That is the recommended browser, and the reason I emphasize that is because when you're working from the internet, when you're using a browser, you're typically accessing things on the internet. Browsers work differently. So if you're using Internet Explorer, which may be the default browser on your computer, or it might be the new Microsoft browser Edge, or you might use Firefox. These are all different browsers that help you connect to the internet, or actually what we say, surf the internet, view the internet, right? View pages on the internet. So all of these browsers perform tasks differently. I'm using Chrome. If you're struggling with the differences between browsers, then I would encourage you to also use Chrome so that you can follow along. I'm going to click on, letter. I'm just going to click on that link. Okay, now mine is defaulting to a certain folder, and this is going to be hugely important because this tells me where the file will be saved. 9 times out of 10, what I observe in students is that they click the Save button without any further observance, right? So you're tossing the file out there, and the problem with that is you don't know where to go to retrieve it. So the whole thing with organizing files and retrieving files is if you don't know where you saved it to begin with, nobody else does either. So if you're not paying attention to that, if you don't have an organized structure, it's kind of like opening the door to your house, flinging it in there, and just hoping that you'll find it later. And if you say, well, that's kind of silly, why is she saying that? Because you don't want to take that approach. You have to pay attention, right? That's really all that this is about. Okay. Now notice it does say that it's this PC, and I have a little delete file set up on my computer on the desktop where sometimes I save things that I might use later. I'm not fully ready to delete. But anyway, I have files and folders that are obviously going to be different than things that are on your computer, right? Now, oftentimes, I'm going to click this Downloads folder because oftentimes a student's computer will be set to save files into the Downloads folder. And you saw that I could change that. So I could either put it in the Downloads folder and spend time copying and pasting it, or cutting and pasting it, or renaming it and saving it, but why not put it someplace where I will remember it later on? Now, I'm going to perform a couple steps that may or may not be the same on your computer identically, but let's just kind of do this to begin. I am going to insert my flash drive. I do still like to use these because they're quick, and although we do have access to things like cloud drives and all, sometimes internet access for students is not as reliable as we would hope that it is and wish that it was. And so the good old USB thumb drive, flash drive, people call them all kinds of things, is often very reliable. All right. When I inserted that, you might have heard my computer make a little chime. That's pretty common. And you hopefully noticed that over here along the side that I now have a new device. Now let me just show you this. Your computer uses alphabetical letters to name devices. When this says local, it means local to my computer. The C drive is always going to be your computer. Some devices have an extra drive, a D drive, an E drive. You may have more than one, what we call hard disk, inside your computer. And that's great if you're only going to work on your particular computer and you're never going to need to, bring those files to class. It just depends on your situation. But I have recommended to students that you use a USB drive, some kind of flash drive, and mine has happened to be labeled D. Maybe yours is named E or F or G, whatever letter it is. If I remove that, and I'm hesitant to do this, but for the purpose of my example, I'm going to do that. Did you see it go away? Okay, so my D drive is gone. If you're saying, how do I know the letter of my drive? That might be how. It was there and then it's gone, right? Okay, so there it is, and you see it. There it is. Okay, I'm going to click on that. Now, I already have several folders here, and they're named as we learned through the, each class. This was our very first Word folder. Then we moved on to Word 2, Word 3, and we even did a Word grader, okay? But we're now working on our Word 4 files, so I'm going to create a new folder. There are many ways to do this. I'm showing you one. Now, before I even create it, where am I creating this folder? Look at the top. On the D drive, same as what you selected over here. You have to pay attention to this. Where is this folder going? I don't want to create 10 folders and have copies. I don't want to create a folder and not know where the folder is, right? So I'm going to click on New Folder, and notice that the text New Folder is selected. If I hit any key on my keyboard, spacebar, number, letter, it's going to replace that text. That's what it means when it's selected. But if I have it all selected like it was, in fact, I'm going to click on it. Let me do that. I'm going to create another new folder just so we can see that. I'm going to click New Folder. See how it's all selected? I'm going to start typing because I want to replace that text with a good name. I'm going to call this Word 4. Now, we've talked about the importance of not using spaces, for example, okay? So I'm going to call this Word 4. Now, you see that the cursor is flashing there and that it looks like I'm still typing. It doesn't look like the other folders. So a really important thing that we have discussed is the need to press the Enter key when you are finished typing. I've finished with my settings. I'm done configuring it. I'm done with the name. Go ahead and press that Enter key. Now, if I were to save this file right now, where would it save? If you said the Word 4 folder, you are not correct. The reason is, where is this file being saved? It's being saved to, in this case, the D drive, which is my removable USB drive. I haven't opened the folder to tell the computer, hey, put the file inside this folder. I haven't done that yet. No problem. Getting ready to do it right now. How do we open it? Just double click it. Now look how this has changed up top here. Here's my removable flash drive D, and now I'm inside my folder. And the way that this works is I can actually click to return to the D drive. Or I can click, double click again to go into the Word folder. But now I know that I am securely inside that folder. Now I can click on Save. What am I naming this document? Well, if I click Save right now, then it's going to be named this. But I know that our textbook wants us to always end the file with our name, right? So I click down here where it says file name. See how important this is? And when you rush through it, you just save, and then you go, where did that file go? I don't know, where did it go, right? You got to take the time on these steps. So that's a key thing. All right, I've clicked down here where it says file name. And what did we learn a moment ago about when the file name or any text is selected? If I were to start typing now, those letters and numbers, that name would be replaced by the text that I'm typing. So I don't want to do that because that's a kind of complicated name. It stands for Word, Module 2, Chapter 4, and then the file name letter. But I don't want to have to remember all that, and I don't want to have to retype it. So I'm going to click at the end because I don't want to start typing now and replace that text. If this is something you struggle with, the key is practice. If you're rushing through it and you're not practicing, you're going to struggle with this every time. I would encourage you to repeat these steps along with the video multiple times. Do it until you're comfortable with it. That way you can focus on learning the software, the Word, the Excel, the PowerPoint, and you won't be struggling with this anymore because you'll have rehearsed it, you'll have practiced. Here's another thing that I would suggest. Don't memorize these steps. Understand the steps, right? That way it makes sense to you. You're doing it not because you're saying, oh my God, what was step number 3? Oh, instead, you're just doing it because, oh yeah, it makes sense that I'm on my flash drive. It makes sense that I'm in the folder, I've opened it. Now it makes sense that I have the text selected, I don't want to type. Now I'm clicking at the end, okay? It takes practice, folks. It takes practice. If this is really new to you, then it will take a little more practice than somebody who's been doing this for several years. That's true for any skill in life, right? Okay, I've clicked at the end, and our textbook tells us to always put an underscore, and then to put our last name. I'm going to put my last name, followed by our first name, no spaces. Notice the use of capitalization, which is important. We can read it easy if we capitalize. Even though there's no spaces, we can still see that very clearly because of our proper use of capitalization. Now that I've named my file, I'm going to click on Save. Now for the Chrome browser, let me pull this up a little bit because it's just outside my recording. Just outside my recording area. Let me pull this up just a little bit more. For the Chrome browser, you can see that the file is down here. If I click on the file, it will open it. Other things that I can do is I can use this little drop-down arrow and look at the menu choices. If you feel this is too fast, rewind the video and look at where I'm clicking again. Okay? Now I'm going to use this Show in Folder option to open this. Another way that I could have, and see how it takes me straight to the file? Another way that I could have opened it is I could have gone to my Start menu, clicked on this PC, clicked on my D drive, and then double clicked on the Word 4 folder to open it. So that just saves me a step. And I can see the file. I know it's a Word file even though the extension, the .docx, is hidden. And that's my file to work on. Now another thing I could have done is I could have just clicked on the file there and it would open it. And now I can begin working on my file. Something your textbook often has you do to change the name of the file is they'll have you click on File, Save As. And when I do that, common locations where I've saved my file occur. Since I've recently saved things to my Word 4 folder, it remembers that. But if not, that's okay. I could go to my PC, and I could navigate. There's my local drive. That's the disk on my computer that stays with the computer. As we've discussed, for me, D is my flash drive, right? And here again, I can create a new folder. There's my Word 4 folder. I could open that. And I could change the name of this file. Sometimes what people do is they'll say this is revision 1. Or sometimes people will say the current date is 9/30/2018. And it just helps you with understanding, if you've made changes, what the most current version of the document is. Now, I don't need this. I know where my document is. I already know what the name is, and I like that name. So I'm going to cancel. And I'm going to go back so that I could work on my file. And at this point, I would follow the instructions in my book, and I can focus on learning the Microsoft Word application. Very, very important. Now, let's say at this point, it's time to submit the file. I'm not sure, is this open? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that to open it. Excellent, okay. And let me pull this up. Now is the important time. I read the instructions, I go down to the bottom, and I need to add the file. If I have no idea where that file is, this is going to be trouble. But luckily, we paid close attention. We know that it was on my PC, my computer, same type thing, right? And I need to upload it, meaning put it out there on the internet. Download, by the way, means to save to a local device, to your computer, to your thumb drive. Upload means to save up into the internet. And you have a special place, in our class to do that. Upload. Now, look at this. I've been working on all kinds of things, and this is where my computer remembers that I last uploaded files. But this is not where I want to go. Where did I put that file? Well, goodness me. I guess I could look over here on the side, and down below, don't I see my flash drive? Now, we've talked that that's one way to get to it. Another way is remember that these things are clickable. I'm just showing you some options here. There are always many ways to do things. So in this case, I might just click on this PC and see how here's my files, there's my thumb drive. So either one of these will take me to the desired location. Here's Word 4, that's where I saved my file. Now I can select it and I can open, or in other words, upload it to my PAWS account. Now that I have it, I'm going to click on Add, and then of course I would submit. Now you may have more files, but this is just for the purpose of the example, just trying to show you how to do that. All right, let's go a little bit further. So that's an example of saving and a little file management here from PAWS. How about in MyITLab? Under Course Materials, and remember you have to be patient with this as it loads. One of the activities that we recently worked on was the word grader assignment. Here it is in the folder. I'm going to click on that to open the folder. And we watched the video on how to use these, and notice this covers chapters 1 through 4. It's a capstone project. I'm going to click on that. And as we observed in the video, there's a 4-step process. The first step is that we have to download, in other words, save to our computer, right? Again, where are we going to save these? Are we just going to throw them haphazardly and hope that we find them later? I think you find that when you do that, you spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to locate and understand and rename, right? You can spend an hour doing that. So we don't want to do that. We want to pay attention. When I click Download Materials, here are the files. Now we discussed in class, if you download all files, that it creates a zip file. And for us, we want to download these individually. It's just going to make things a little bit easier for us. These are the instructions. Look at even though this begins with what looks like a little bit of a complicated file name, it does tend to make sense, right? Your Office, version 16, and all this, and then the instructions. Now, here is a little bit of a difference. We talked about this in class. The file that we're going to work on, rather than beginning with YO, Your Office with Capstone Grader, they've added a piece at the front with the student name. But when you submit it, their instructions ask you to change that name and actually ask you to open a document called Your Office with Capstone. We discussed this in class, but this is where it's really going to matter to pay attention. Obviously I need to download each and every one of these files. For our example, and to keep this video just a little bit shorter because I know it's lengthy, I'm just going to download one file for now. I'm going to click on download for this grader file. Now it's asking me, where do you want to save this? Please do not assume that this file is going to be saved in the correct location. It is going to save in the last location that you used. That could be anywhere. It could be on your C drive. It could be on a D drive that is not your thumb drive or your flash drive. So you need to make sure that you are familiar with the devices attached to your computer and what that letter is, right? So for me it was the D drive. Now this is for Word 4, but I don't want to save it in that folder. I want to save it into my grader folder. And see how I already have some files saved there? If I save it again, it's going to replace that. For this example, let's just make sure we really understand. I'm going to go back. You're getting a good tour here. I'm going to go back to the USB drive, and I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call this Word. Notice no spaces. In fact, I could even I don't even have to put a hyphen. Just push it right up against each other. Word Grader Rev 1. How about that? I'll put one in there. So what do I do when I finish typing? I hope you said hit the enter key. Whenever we're done typing, we hit the enter key. So now I save, right? No. I am not in the folder. I'm only on the D drive. Got to pay attention. And yeah, do I understand that you're making the mistake? The reason I ask you the question is because these are common mistakes. It does take a little practice. You got to train your brain to say, where am I? Where am I? Okay, I'm not in my folder. Got to open the folder. Now, there we go. Okay, now, if I press save right now, I will definitely be saving this file into my correct folder. And there would be nothing wrong with that, except one thing. You know the book does not want this word student at the beginning. So if you like, you could right now refer to the instructions with the grader project and ensure that this file is named correctly in accordance with the grader project instructions. I'm going to go ahead and save because perhaps you've done that as well. One quick note before I do. If I click here and I start typing, isn't it going to delete all that text? Where am I putting the file? Sorry, where am I putting the file? What is the file named? If I click, am I replacing that text? I need to be looking at the screen. Well, I'm not going to change the name right now. I'm going to click on save. So what did we learn? Every browser is different. Sorry. Get this up just a little bit so you can see it. But for Chrome, if I click here, I open the document, correct? If I click on this, I can choose to display it inside of its folder. See where it's located? If I just simply want to open it, now, if I'm now looking at the instructions for the grader project, I will understand that this file name is not correct. And one of the things that your book has suggested that you do is to click on File, Save As. Where are we saving it? Well, it's something connected to this PC. We're not saving it on this PC. We're saving it to something connected to this PC. We need to verify the location. The D drive. Here's our Word Grader 1, Revision 1, or Grader Revision 1 file. There's the original file. I know where I'm saving it. If I click on the file name and start typing, I have trouble because it's going to replace the file name. What I know from looking at the text instructions that come with the grader is that, and double check me on this, because you see I'm working without the instructions here, is that they would have us name it like that. So if you missed what I did there, rewind the video. Now I'm going to save. I'm working in the new file. Very important to keep track of what I'm working on. I would make all the changes required according to the instructions. I would make sure that I save frequently as I make those make those changes to the file. When you're done, close the file. Now, obviously, I would have returned here and downloaded each one of these files, making sure I knew where I saved them. I would save them in the Word Grader Revision 1 folder. I'm going to close this. I complete the steps as explained here, and now I need to upload that file. If you have no idea where you've put the file, if you have saved this file in multiple locations, if you're unsure which one of the copies you have been working on, you are very likely to get either a low score or an unexpected score or a haphazard score because you simply submitted the wrong file. Do you see how important file management is? Click on Choose File. Now again, see how it remembers where I was last? We cannot assume that it's always going to know where we put our files and that it's going to read our minds and go out there and get that. We can't do that. So I'm going to look along the side here, make sure I know where I'm at. You know, if you wanted to say this PC, then I might look at the devices connected to my PC. The C drive is always connected to my PC because it is the local hard drive, meaning it's wired to the computer. This is my removable drive. I'm going to double click that to open it. There's my Word Greater Rev 1 folder, and I thoroughly expect it to be there because I paid attention when we created that folder. I'm going to double click that to open. Now, of my files, this is the one, correct? Because this is the one we created, named according to the instructions, and continued to work on. So I would click on Open, and you see that it's uploading, in other words, putting on the internet, that particular file. I'm kind of having some slow internet connections, and partially it's because I'm recording as I do this. When this finishes uploading, okay, now it's finished uploading. Don't forget, we saw the video and how they emphasized I have to submit it. Just uploading it does not submit it. So I would then submit for grading. You know, I'm logged in with kind of a special account. Is it going to let me do it? If you would kind of bear with me here a little bit, because I'm doing this to simulate as a student. So if my things are not working exactly, again, please do bear with me. Okay. Just in case, you know, I'm always going to look to make sure I don't have any pop-ups blocked up here. You know, I'm looking at this bar here, trying to figure out if I right click, doesn't right click always give me a menu? And it gives me a menu for whatever I have right clicked on. Notice that's a little different than that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reload this page, just hoping that if anything's wrong that it'll figure it out at this point. I see that my file is not uploaded anymore, so I'm just going to do that again quickly. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you caught me, I bet. I didn't upload. Did you catch me? Minus 20 points. Okay, so make sure you don't make the mistake I did. And do that. Oh, goodness, minus 3 letter grades. Taking off right now. Terrible, terrible. All right, once it's uploaded, submit for grading. Submit for grading. And it says I'm done. And if you remember from the video, the points, it should grade it very, very quickly. Here it says it's pending, so it hasn't graded quite yet, but here it does tell me that this is submitted. Now, once I get my grade, don't forget to go back and look at your reports. If you can't remember where the reports are, and I have just a little bit more to tell you, so bear with me, come back over here to PAWS, Content for our class. Along the side of content, you should see one that says My IT Help Supplemental. I showed you this in class, but this is a review. There's a video, how to complete a grader project, and at the end of that video, it tells you how you can review the report, make changes, and then simply upload the work again to improve your score. So you want to make sure that you do that, okay? All right, so we have downloaded and saved and created folders for files from PAWS. We have done that for files in MyITLab, and I made a mistake to help you keep from making the same mistake. Here's the final thing I want to make sure that you know. When we're in I'm going to go back here. When we're in course materials, I'm going to go back to this is when you first click on course materials, you come to My Courses. And at the very top, you know, here's all the folders, here's all the work that we're doing, but at the very top, here's the ebook. And this is your full book online. It's the full book, not just the chapters that we're covering. I would encourage you, if you open that book, well, should I go through the whole thing again? Let me do it again. Now, if you don't understand this, then you need to read, because I've had somebody ask me that, and that concerns me. When it says click here to access the e-text, and you say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, click here, right? You know that. I'm going to close this. I already have it open, so I'm going to close that back there. Okay. It's loading my book. If you are prompted to load Flash or install a plugin, please do. It's necessary for your book to operate correctly. And as you can see, the page number is the cover page, correct? So here's the full book. There's Word, there's Excel, Access, PowerPoint, integrated projects, so much more. But there's also Windows 10. And when we talk about file management, we are talking about things that are part of the Windows operating system. So click on Windows 10, and then here's Chapter 1, and I'm going to click on that. And if we take a moment to just simply look at what this chapter covers, if you do not know how to, when they say explore, this is file management, explore the desktop and start menu, use the Windows search, it is well worth it to take the time to go through some of these pages and really understand. Here's the Edge browser. This is a brand new browser for Microsoft. You may want to look at it. And look at this, using something called OneDrive, which you have access through to the college, but just simply working with folders, files, and compressions. And each one of these, see how my mouse arrow changed to a hand? Each one of these page numbers is a clickable link. I can click on that, go straight to the page. So this is about page 49 in your book. And you could complete the steps, but why not watch the videos so that you can learn more? And just watch the ones that you need to know. But you could even start at page 1 and just one page at a time. Let me go one more back here. And just one page at a time, watch the videos to kind of get an idea, a sense of what you need to do. But I will emphasize that it's going to be practice that is going to help you feel more comfortable with these steps so that they're second nature. And that's what you want. That's what you want out of this class. It's kind of like anything. When you get ready to run a marathon, you don't wake up that morning and say, I'm going to run the marathon. If you want to get into shape, you don't do something just one day and say, well, thank heavens, I'm in shape from here on out, right? These things take repetition, they take time, and none of us like it, folks. Oh, it bothers all of us. Think about when you first learned to drive a car, when you first learned to ride a bike, when you first learned to walk. You did not do it well. None of us did. None of us did. It takes practice. You don't want to haphazardly practice. You don't want to just click without thinking through. So follow the steps in these videos. Make it make sense. Don't try to say, okay, I always do this and then I always do that. And then if you do that, it's going to be so frustrating and you're going to get so fed up with it and you're just going to be done with everything. Kind of push back and make sure you're looking at the trees and not the forest, okay? Or maybe the forest as well as the trees, right? Whichever way that goes. So that it really should make sense. And when it doesn't, yeah, ask a question, not a problem, but make sure that you're kind of giving me some steps and telling me where you're going, because I'm glad to help you get on track. Now, it does take practice. So if you're coming asking the same question, we need to investigate, why are we reviewing the exact same steps every single class? Why is there no forward progress? Typically when there's not, it's not because this is too difficult. It's because you're not practicing, and so it's easy to forget. We're not doing any calculus here. We are just kind of clicking at things and looking, but we're clicking with purpose and with intention, and I know you can do it. I really, truly know that you can do it. So I hope this helps, and we will talk to you later.